Good evening and welcome to this week's edition of Sunday Night Live, the automotive show where we tackle all things automotive. Variable ops, fixed ops, doesn't really matter. If it benefits us all as a community, we talk about it on the show. And I try to bring on guests that not everybody else has on because I like to look at things a little bit differently than many of the things that are looked at. So today, my special guest is Erica Meyer. Now, you may notice a slight resemblance, actually a major resemblance, but today's topic is on millennials and how millennials think and how that relates to our car business. And I figured since my daughter is a millennial, what better person to get a good point of view from than my own daughter. So I'm going to cite an article that I read online. It's called "The 14 Most Destructive Millennial Myths Debunked by Data," and it is by an organization called Thrive Global. So I thought it was interesting because some of the comments that they make, we as boomers, or most of us as boomers, may see a certain way. However, millennials may partially agree with that statement, as Erica pointed out to me while we were reviewing some of these, but for different reasons. And tonight we're going to dig into that. We're going to go through some of the statements that are highlighted in the article, and we'll also have time for, as always, some Q&A. If you guys are curious as to what the thought process might be, feel free to put it in the chat, and we will talk about it. Just a quick up note on the double knee replacement progress. Doing good. Still have some pain now and then, but overall moving is good. My exercise is fairly vigorous, and I found that I need a good 3 to 4 days recuperation time before my next session. So the good thing is that progress is happening. The bad thing is that the recuperation time takes a little bit longer, but overall doing pretty well, and I'm very excited. As far as the pain is concerned, that's something that may take a little while. Every time I ask the doctor, he says it could be anywhere from 6 to 12 months, which is quite normal. And in my case, where I had 2 done at the same time, maybe closer to a year, but no pain, no gain. Like I said, I am making progress every day, so I'm very excited about that and thankful. Got some comments here. John Neeb, hello, Paul, and hello, everybody who has come tonight. Nice to meet all of you. Thank you. Nice to meet you as well. Michael Weldon from the West Coast says, hello, everyone, and Mark Williamson. Hello, all. Steve Cheshin, my buddy from the West Coast, says hi, and he says, hi, Michael, how are you? All right, so millennials get a bad rap. When they did this article, they started typing in millennials are, and some pretty nasty stuff came up. Things like lazy, or killing, industry, stupid, idiots, and more and more and more. And I think that millennials are pretty much misunderstood, all right? Because when you look at Erica, at age 29, she's a college graduate with a master's degree in education, and she's an assistant principal in a high school at age 29. Obviously, I'm a proud dad, so I mentioned this. And most of the people that I mentioned that to, it's like, wow, at such a young age. She's a millennial, but yet she does it, okay? And I remember, and this is something that goes way back. I remember times where I would be on the computer at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, and Erica would be up, and I'd say, hey, what are you doing? And she would say, oh, I'm doing my homework. And at the time, she was working a part-time job after school, doing the social thing. She was in band and doing homework late hours into the night. So my thought was always, I know you enjoy this part-time job after school, but maybe it's more than you need. because it seems to be interfering with your stuff, and I didn't feel that homework should be done at 1:30 in the morning. However, when I asked Erica, she said, you know, I do well in school. I've got great friends. I participate. I work. I got this, Dad. And it's that kind of work ethic that most of society does not envision when they think of millennials. But yet, I'm here to tell you, a lot of them do have that. So, Erica, thanks for being on the show. I didn't twist your arm too badly, right?
Thank you for having me. My arm is twisted as much as it could be, but I'm happy to be here.
My other daughter said, when I texted her, I said, yeah, Erica's not quite sure that she's going to be on the show yet. I haven't fully explained it to her. And the two girls are very protective of each other. And Caroline immediately got on the phone and said, look, Dad, sounds pretty controlling. If she doesn't want to do it, make sure you don't make her do it. So I said, no. I'm sure she'll want to do it. But it's her choice. If she didn't want to do it, I would never force my kids to do anything they didn't want to do. Right, Erica? All right. So let's start off with the first topic. They say millennials are the me generation. Like me. It's all about me, and they don't care about others. I don't think that's the case. So tell us about when you had the fundraiser. Remember the first fundraiser you did for Christmas? Right. So tell us what motivated you to do that. What was that fundraiser all about?
Sure. Well, I did a fundraiser after one of my students who was coming to my class every day, and her glasses were broken. So she would come to my class every morning, and we would tape her glasses back together. And then the next day, like clockwork, she would come straight off the bus after eating breakfast, come to my room to get her glasses taped again. And when I asked her about, why are your glasses broken? Do your parents know? Do you have an appointment to get them fixed? She said that they really couldn't afford to go to the doctor or get the glasses. So that really just made me think about what I could do to help her and her family. So it was kind of around the holiday time, and I just decided I don't really have too much money, but I do have an impact in terms of like the people who I know and the people who I could reach out to who could maybe support. So I decided to start a fundraiser just to raise, I think I started with like, what was it?
$200. Yeah, for the glasses.
Yeah, just to be able to get her some glasses, and then that was pretty much it, just the glasses. And it was years ago. I can't really remember how soon that it happened, but within the first, I would say, day, I probably exceeded the goal for my fundraising, and people just started donating like crazy. And we were able to raise $4,000. So it kind of started with just trying to get one of my students a new pair of glasses, which we were able to do. But then we had received so many donations that I was able to extend the fundraiser to accommodate all the homeless students at our school, and then some who maybe weren't homeless but just experiencing food insecurity or just in need of resources. So that one student, her name is Iris, that just kind of sparked the fundraiser and just thinking about how I could make a larger impact and give back to my school community.
So at Christmas time, you were able to get what? Pencils, school supplies, hats, gloves?
Literally everything. I had different people on my team call the families. So we kind of identified what specific items that they needed and what they wanted. So we were able to get everyone, every family received a bag of groceries that included perishables and non-perishables so that they could cook a holiday meal. Pretty much everything that they asked for, we were able to give them: food, clothing, toys, games, electronics, you name it, we were pretty much able to get it for them.
So that doesn't sound like a very me type of thing. And another thing is my other daughter, as a divorced dad, Erica was away at college, and my other daughter and I, we spent probably half the week together. And another young person that I went to pick her up on, it was our Friday night to hang out for the weekend. And she says, "Oh, before we go out, can we stop at Dana's church?" So I said, "Sure." So we stopped at Dana's church. Caroline was working at Five Guys. She had just gotten a part-time job after school. And I waited while she went in the church and came back out, a short time later. And I said, "Oh, so what's going on with Dana?" And so she says, "Well, Dana, her church is raising money to build latrines in Haiti." Now, we take for granted a simple thing as going to the bathroom, being able to wash our hands with running water and flush toilets. There are lots of places in the world where they don't have that. And each latrine costs $300 to build. The reason Caroline wanted to stop off at Dana's church was because she had taken $300 of her own money that she earned working at Five Guys, that she was donating to the church to build a latrine in Haiti. So not too many teenage girls that I can think of would do such a thing. However, there are a lot of people out there that do that. So the first myth of the millennials are the me generation. We just busted that.
I do kind of agree with it a little bit, though.
All right, so how do you agree with it?
So I think that I do agree that, millennials are very giving, they're very charitable, they will go out of their way for others. But I think that every generation kind of blames the generation after them for being, kind of selfish and self-centered. And I think that that's just kind of part of the aging process, is just looking back on the future generations. Oh, well, back in my day, we had to, do this and that and go through all these struggles that these kids know nothing about. So I think that millennials, when I think about being a me generation, I think that we really are. I think that even though it's not selfish, as I think a lot of people intend by calling us the me generation, I think that we do prioritize ourselves and our best interests. And I think that even though it's often made to seem like it's a negative, I really view it as a positive, because we're not sacrificing ourselves just for the sake of doing things the way they've always been done.
Very good point. Let's get to a couple of comments because I hate to fall behind. Vanessa says, "Hey, hey."
Hey, Vanessa.
And I missed her before. And Steve Apicella, "There's no greater gift than being a parent and seeing them grow, thrive, and become uniquely brilliant. As they have learned from us, we have much to learn from them too." That's a good point. But sometimes we can also create our worst nightmares. There was a time where, I'm a very much, if I take something out, I put it back. I don't just put it back, I put it back exactly where it goes, because I hate to be that guy that can't find stuff when they need it. So one time we were going away somewhere, and Eric and I had just gotten back from a bicycle ride. And I said, "Oh, just put your bike behind the house and let's go." Well, the bike kind of belonged on the porch, not just behind the house. So she says, "Dad, I have to put my bike on the back porch." I said, "Erica, we have to go. We're going to be late. We can't be late. We have to go." And she said, "Dad, she stands there, puts her hands on her hips, looks up at me with those brown eyes of hers, and says, 'Dad, we just got back from a nice bike ride, and now you're yelling at me.'" What are you going to do? So I just kind of stood there like, you know what? You're right. Go put the bike back on the porch where it belongs. What's another 30 seconds? We'll be fine. So yes, a lot to learn from them as well, Steve. Paul Machine, my buddy. "Hey, Paulie," and says, "Hey, Erica."
Hi, Paul.
Jeff Daniel, "Your entire hiring process, employee reviews, and short/long-term expectations are in need of changing with the group of employee talent." Absolutely true. We do need to cater a little bit more to what the people that work for us are accustomed to. Paul Machine says, "Hustle," and Mark Williamson, "Thank you for being here, Erica." And Michael Larkin, that's my buddy from West Hartford. Hi all, Mike here from West Hartford. Happy to meet Erica. Let's have some fun. And Erica spelled the proper way, just FYI, with a K. And Paulette Meyer, that's another Meyer household name. Few days at the most. Oh yeah, that's right. Michael Weldon, solid effort and caring. Ron Usher, Paul. Hi, Paul and Erica. It's the old man. This guy actually retired. Nobody retires. Steve Apicella said, I'm blessed to have two kids, one a millennial and one a Gen Z. Seeing the world through their eyes, their contributions and gaining insights from their experiences significantly helps our solutions be ultra relevant and successfully grow beyond my Gen X perspective.
Definitely agree. And if I could just say that Gen Z is my favorite generation. They're going to save the world. So love them.
Well, Ed Meyer says, hey, who's aging? Yeah, you know what? Actually, Erica and I had a conversation about that today. And it seems like I'm crossing the bridge into old personhood. And that is denoted by the mode of dress. Old people tend to coordinate their shirt, their outfits. So the shirt somehow matches the pants. And I found that I'm spending a little bit more time than I probably should matching my outfits. So yeah, I'm officially old. This year I'm approaching my 60th birthday. So that's going to be real traumatic. So we'll try not to focus on that. Paul Machine says, awesome insights, Erica. And Mike Vogel, the coach. Erica has a great dad. Mike, you're just saying that because it's true, man. And Erica, Paula puts up the laughing face emojis. All right, so myth number 2, maybe in some ways is a myth, in other ways it's not. Number 2, millennials are different from their parents and grandparents. Fact, millennials are similar to their parents and grandparents when they were the same age under new circumstances. So, do you want to comment on that?
Sure. I actually agree with this one completely. I think that millennials are a lot different from their parents and grandparents. For one, we grew up with the internet, so a lot of people who are older than us can't relate to things that happened on the internet while we were growing up. Getting cyberbullied, getting exposed online and your pictures leaked and something like that. That was always a big issue at every school that I went to and every school that I worked at. There was always something going on where somebody was getting exposed online. And I think that that's hard for older generations to relate to. And just being more visible. You can not get a job because of what you post on social media if your job doesn't agree with what you post or thinks it's inappropriate. So I think just having to kind of worry more about what you do off the clock at your workplace is something that a lot of older people may not have to relate to or may not be able to relate to at such a young age. And then I also think that millennials really have a very different financial situation than their parents did. The article talks about the median income for boomers being $60,000 when they were between the ages of 18 and I think it was 30. And the median income for millennials in that same age range is $61,000. So when you think about the fact that the median income has not changed at all, the wages really haven't risen at all, but everything costs so much more. I think that really does change the way that we view life and the way that we live.
Like you said, there are a lot of people that have massive student debt.
Definitely. I would say if I have 10 friends, 9 of them have student loan debt. And I would say probably at least 5 of them have 6-figure student loan debt. So that definitely changes the way that you think, and it changes the way that you live your life in a lot of ways because it prevents some people from doing things that they really want to do. Other people, it doesn't necessarily prevent them because they maybe don't understand that they actually are going to be asked to repay this money and face some penalties if they don't. But I think that just having that debt, that massive debt, and just not making enough income, even if you don't have that much debt, does impact the way that you live your life.
I mean, a six-figure student loan debt, that's got to be, what, $1,000 a month easily?
Yeah, it's easily as much as your rent.
Wow. So that's certainly going to affect, how people live and some of the choices that they're able to make. And Paulette Myers says, great insight, Erica. I couldn't agree with you more. And that's just because she's my daughter. All right, number 3, millennials are unsatisfied with work. It says, compared to boomers and Gen Xers, millennials reported higher levels of overall company and job satisfaction with job security, recognition, and career development and advancement, but reported similar levels of satisfaction with pay and benefits and work itself and turnover intentions. So, unsatisfied with work, a lot of them? Yes, no, maybe?
I don't know if I could say a yes or no. I think that a lot of millennials are unsatisfied with work, but I don't know if I could say most. But I think that millennials, if they are unsatisfied, they will make a change, or they won't invest as much energy into their work if they don't feel like it serves them.
But it won't stay in a job just for staying in a job's sake.
Yes, definitely.
Says number 4, millennials lack loyalty to their employer.
And that's kind of why I didn't want to go too much into it with the last one, because I totally agree with this one. Millennials completely lack loyalty to their employer, and it is to our benefit. We do not stay at a job just to say we've been at a job for this many years or to be loyal to certain employers or bosses. If the job is not giving us what we want, we get out immediately.
Jimmy Prater says more parents in public schools need to talk positive about the military. They're looking for a job, and he says they're looking for a job, not a career. That's true, because it used to be, even before our times, people that are my vintage, that people would stay in a job / career for 30, 40 years, you get a pension, get a watch when they throw you out, all that good stuff. But that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. And with this millennial generation, hey, I don't think they're about wasting time. I think they're more serious about, hey, these are my life goals. They have life goals, and these are the action steps that I need to do and take in order to achieve those goals. I think the millennials are very goal-oriented and will work towards the end game. I know Erica's always, and my other daughter Caroline also has always had the end, the end game in mind in all of the steps taken to get there. And one of the sayings that I love from a guy named Gary Vee, for those that know him, for those that don't, he says everything always takes longer than you plan, but always keep focused on the prize. And that's something that we have personal experience with, because in getting to this position, it took a while, and there was some frustration along the way. We'd have talks on the phone, and there was some disappointment along the way that maybe the interview didn't come in, or the choice wasn't her. And what did I always say?
You said a lot of things.
I
there
think
was many phone calls where I cried about this.
And I said, you know what? You're doing great. Keep working towards your goal, and it will come. You just need to keep working towards it. And then I remember I got that one phone call. We were FaceTiming. I had to pull over so I could handle the emotions that would be flowing moments later when she got the assistant principal's job. So, you know what I forgot to mention before about the me stuff? That one fundraiser kind of set the stage for some other activities because you were also able to secure for the school some donations, right? Like the one school, washers and dryers, right, for the kids that didn't have that at home.
Yeah, I was able to secure some grant funding from the Washington football team, and they installed 6 washers and dryers in our school so that the families could come and do laundry, so that they would have access to that. And they could, in exchange for getting their laundry washed and dried and folded, they would have time to participate in different school events and parent-teacher conferences and things like that. But I think that initially, when I started thinking about the fundraiser, I think that charity is awesome. But I think that ultimately systemic change is what is really going to change the world. So you could donate money here and donate money there, but ultimately I was trying to increase my impact to make a lasting change. So even though I'm not at that school anymore, the school and the students are still benefiting from being able to use those washer dryers. Whereas with the fundraisers, since I'm not at that school anymore, it's something that kind of ended with me. So as I kind of get more into my career, I just start thinking more as I learn more about how can I make a more lasting impact so that the work that I do continues even after I'm gone.
Proud dad right there, just saying. Michael Larkin, the younger folks feel they have got to include a say to impact to the success of the company. True. What do you think about that?
I totally agree. I think that that's a good thing. Like, you should want the people at your job to think like my voice matters and the things that I say actually contribute to the success of this organization. And I think that doing things like that will help to retain your employees.
Awesome. All right, now we're on to number 5. Millennials don't know how. It says millennials don't know how to work. Bad work ethic. Well, I guess we kind of covered that already, no?
Yeah, I think we did. I think that it kind of ties into talking about, loyalty, and just, I think that different generations see work ethic in different ways. So someone who was older might see somebody who is always on their phone as, oh, that person has bad work ethic, when in reality they could be doing all their work from their phone or their iPad. And the person is just so fixed on that judgment of, oh, this person is just always on a screen. We're not realizing that they're getting more work done being on the screen than the person talking about them on the screen.
That's so true. And actually that affects my world very much closer to within the walls of my home, because a lot of what I do is on the phone as well. And I get probably most of my business off of LinkedIn. And my wife would always see me on LinkedIn, says, you're always on LinkedIn, whether morning, night, middle of the night. I could get up sometimes at 3 in the morning, and the first thing I do is I turn on my, I look at my phone, I go on LinkedIn, I participate in a thread, or I make a comment on somebody else's post, or I may find someone that could benefit from what we do, and I'll actually reach out to that person if I'm up at that hour and I'm on it. So good point, Erica. They see you on the phone, not always realizing that it's work related. Most of what I do is work related. So even when you see me on the phone, when you work for yourself, you're not bound by a specific schedule. It is the most bizarre thing. It is like working 7 days a week and being off 7 days a week, all at the same time. You have the freedom and flexibility to conduct business the way you feel you should and need to, but there are no time constraints as to when you could be working. So if I send you a message at 3 in the morning, there's a good reason for it, because something popped into my head at that particular time. Paulette says, whose emotions, hers or yours? Actually, I think it was both of ours on that phone call. Jimmy Prater says, great job, guys. I'll catch the recording later. So Jimmy's got to run. Thanks for tuning in, Jimmy. Appreciate it, man. All right, so Number 6, millennials were subjected to bad parenting strategies. And this brought up a funny conversation earlier because we kind of had different ideas on this. And I think what participation trophies was one of the things that came up. And I don't necessarily believe in participation trophies per se, but then Erica reminded me that I was none too kind to the softball coach because I was a little pissed off, to be honest with you, that he didn't, Erica did not get a lot of play time on the softball team. So tell us about that, Erica.
So I'm good at many things, but team sports are not one of them. And one thing that I think people always talk about when they talk about millennials is like, oh, that's the participation trophy generation. So I would kind of agree with that to a certain extent, because me being the worst player on the softball team, could not hit a ball, could not catch a ball, really just struggle no matter what position you put me in. And my parents really advocated hard for me to get a lot of play time. Now, granted, it was like elementary and moving into middle school. So it wasn't like, college level or high school or anything like that. But they definitely did advocate for me to get a lot of play time. And it did not positively affect the team, just because I really brought no skill to to the field. So I think that people see different things that millennials parents did as kind of like bad parenting strategies. And I think that there's different sides to it. I can see, not wanting to reward kids just for showing up and participating, but I also think that kids do need that positive, they need to feel like they are important and valued, and them being there does make a difference. So I kind of see both sides. I can't really say if I was a parent what I would do in that scenario. I would probably also cuss the coach out, but
Did I cuss the coach out?
He was, yeah, I don't know.
Well, the way I looked at it, I wasn't necessarily looking for her to get a trophy for playing if she wasn't that aggressive. And you know what? Both of my kids were not very aggressive in sports. I hate to say it, but it's true. But I just wanted them to have the opportunity to play, because the more you play or the more you practice at something, the greater you can get at it. So if you don't get a chance to play, how are you supposed to improve? I wasn't for pushing for a trophy, because look, I realized you weren't the greatest player on the team, but I wanted you to at least have the opportunity to have more play time and to see if you could develop into a better player. But if you don't get a chance to play, then that's never going to happen. So yeah, so we kind of saw differently on that one, but at the same time. All right, number 7, millennials aren't equipped to handle the world's challenges and need a corporate parent. Now that sounds like a crock of crap to me.
Yeah, I don't know. When I first hear that millennials aren't equipped to handle the world's challenges, I kind of feel like there's a lot of things that are stacked against us from the beginning, and I'm always going to go back to crippling student loan debt. That is really debilitating in a lot of people's lives. But I think also the world has a lot of challenges. And when I think about what I learned in school growing up, a lot of the things that I have to deal with now, even in education, do not relate to anything of value. I spent a lot of time learning about cursive, which I never used. We just spent a lot of time prioritizing tasks and skills and information that wasn't necessarily important, and that didn't really have a lot of takeaways outside of just testing for it and then moving on. So I definitely think that there are a lot of areas where millennials do have to kind of be problem solvers and think about, kind of do their own personal development to varying levels to be able to handle the world's challenges, but definitely don't think that we need a corporate parent, as the article states.
Number 8, it says millennials are lazy. I think we kicked that one to the curb.
Definitely. I definitely think that laziness is, I mean, obviously there's people who are lazy in every generation, but I think that millennials are interpreted as lazy when it's like we are still, I still feel like we're doing just as good, if not better than other generations, even though I think that we have a lot more odds stacked against us in terms of things staying the same over the years, and just what that, how that time of everything staying the same over the course of all those years can make situations worse.
Now, one of the things that, you know, you were fortunate. I mean, you worked very hard in school, you got great grades, and you were able to get, you know, some scholarships for schooling. And you also always worked multiple jobs, right? I mean, you worked full-time job and a part-time job, and you were fortunate to not be one of those people that's drowning in student debt. Between, you know, mom and dad, between the scholarships, between working multiple jobs at the same time, you were able to kind of move forward. So that I 1000% disagree with the millennials are lazy thing, and my other daughter as well. You know, and since both my kids were able to work, they worked. Since I was 14 years old, I worked. I was doing newspapers, I shined shoes in a barber shop, you name it, I did it. And I've been paying my own way since I was about 14 years old. And I'm very proud of my girls because they have the same work ethic, and their mom's very hard worker, very focused and goal oriented as well. So, you know, they've had some good role models. But most importantly, I learned that you can guide all you want. None of that makes a difference, because where the rubber meets the road is the action that they take on their own. We hope to guide, we hope to instill values, but the reality is we have zero control. It is all up to them to make the right choices. And so number 8, we kick you to the curb. It's BS. They're not lazy. Number 9, millennials won't do what they're told at work. Now that sounds like another crop.
I agree with this one and disagree with it to an extent. I think, I can't remember who said it in the comments earlier, but people, someone said that they felt like millennials needed to feel like their voice mattered. And I feel like that applies at work. I think that a lot of, at least from my experience, working jobs, a lot of things, and not just jobs, but in my career, a lot of things are done just for the sake of saying that it's done, because tradition has made it be that way, but it's not necessarily effective and it doesn't necessarily make sense. It's just kind of like, this is the way that we've always done things. So I think that millennials are a lot more curious than our older generations who raised us, because we want to make sure that we're using our time effectively and not wasting it on mundane tasks that are not really going to benefit us or the workplace.
Here, here. Steve Apicella, millennials research everything, are technology savvy, and expect transparent, simple accessibility to the products, services they're considering. They can quickly sense lack of sincerity, lack of alignment with their values, and have no patience for being oversold. Oh, we're going to lead into something with that. Thank you, Steve. They don't need a corporate parent. To the contrary, as an industry, everyone needs to pay attention if they want to connect with the largest generation ever, aka their next customers. Steve always has some of the most well thought out, carefully crafted, on point, spot on point responses. And I appreciate you, man. That you couldn't have said better. You know, Erica drives about an hour to service her car. Now, I also drive about an hour to service my car, but we do it for different reasons. I drive an hour because I love the dealership where we bought all our cars from. The sales department's awesome. The service department, they bend over backwards, and I never feel like I'm getting shafted. They're always honest, transparent, upfront, and they accommodate me in every way, shape, or form that makes me feel important as a customer. Erica, on the other hand, drives an hour to the dealership, not because she loves that particular dealership, but because it's literally an hour from where she lives. And I've always said I'm a big advocate for service at the dealer, but we had a conversation earlier, and what did you say to me about the servicing at the dealer?
Well, I was only going to that dealership because I leased my car at the time, so I had to go into that dealership for maintenance. But there was really nothing outside of the fact that I had to do it that made me want to go. No matter how good something is, driving an hour is just not really a good use of my time, I don't think. And I kind of felt like every time that I went in, I bought a new car for the sake of not having to worry about being broken down on the side of the road or anything like that. But every time I went in, I would always just expect to spend, a little bit of money, and nothing would be wrong with my car. I would just be going in for routine service. And I felt that every time I went to go pay, they would always try to tell me that there was something very wrong with my car. And like the last time I needed to get my car serviced, they ended up telling me that it was going to be about $600 to fix a bunch of things, including my car battery, when I didn't go in telling them that I had any problems. I was just going in for routine service. So.
And the battery they told you needed, that was a year ago.
Yes, it was over a year ago. That's told me I needed a new battery. And I've driven to up and down the East Coast multiple times. I drive my car if not every day, every couple of days, and I've had no issues. Hopefully my battery, now that we're talking about this, hopefully it doesn't die tomorrow, but I'm just saying, it's been a year, I didn't replace it, and we're all still alive, so.
So the trust factor, right? You lose confidence if it seems as though they're always trying to sell you something, right? But in all fairness, that's something that can happen at more than the dealer level, because we used to, I'm a big AAA fan, and we subscribe to the better package of the AAA service, because I, for one, don't want to get stuck. We service our cars like clockwork, and I want to make sure that if by chance we do get stuck, that we're not going to have major issues. And it seems as though this one particular local garage in my area, every time, sometimes stupid stuff happens, right? My stepson, he borrowed the car to take my favorite mother-in-law at the time to the casino, and he just forgot to close the door all the way. And as a result of that door being ajar, it killed the battery. Well, lo and behold, the guy comes out, jump starts the car. Oh, you need a new battery. Well, no, actually, it's an interstate battery that I purchased a year ago. And whenever there's a choice of the medium duty or the heavy duty, I always buy the heavy duty, because like I said, I'm not one to get stuck. I don't have the time or the patience for it. And several other times, anytime they came out, I always needed a battery, when that certainly wasn't the case. Nathaniel Evil says, good evening, everyone. And I want to get to this one. Tully says, I want to be millennial. Tully's awesome. He's out on the West Coast. Part of our fixed ops roundtable. But yeah, so the trust factor, to Steve's point about, transparency and things like that, because every time she goes in, they try to tell her everything's always bad with the car. There's no trust factor. She says, Dad, I'm driving by an awful lot of garages to go service at this particular dealer that I don't, really care for anyway. So remember that, guys. Trust is paramount, and sell the green. Everything isn't always bad. Let them know that there are good things with their car as it comes in for service. Paulette says, Tully Williams, not me. Paul Machines, she did her college right. Yes, she did. All right, number 10, Facebook causes depression. I'm not sure how that got on here, because I don't think Facebook is really much of a millennial thing. I think it's more of a boomer thing, no?
Yes, boomers
Running or ruining?
Running it front to back, all the messy boomer drama is all over Facebook. So, I mean, I think that social media in a lot of ways can contribute to mental health concerns, but for Facebook,
more a boomer problem.
Can't really speak on that. I do use Facebook, but not the same way that y'all do.
Sally says, always sell the green. Absolutely. Number 11, millennials don't believe in education and aren't educated. Bam, I think we just knocked that one out of the park.
My student loan debt determined that was a lie. Everyone else is. But definitely think that millennials really do value education to the point that I know so many people who are just getting a degree so that they have a degree, so that they do have that bachelor's base. When a lot of times they don't even end up working in the field that they have their degree in. So I definitely think that millennials do understand that education is what gets your foot in the door, and they're going to do it, even though I honestly don't think that college education is the best choice for everyone, just based on what you're trying to do in life and kind of your financial situation. But I think that millennials as a whole are like, education is the bare minimum that you need.
So I say we crush that one with a massive hammer. Number 12, corporations don't need millennials, but millennials need corporations, both for work and parenting. Another load of malarkey there.
Yeah, I definitely disagree. I don't really think that millennials need corporations for much, because I think that as more and more technology develops, there's so many more ways to work for yourself, or just work in ways that allow you to have more freedom and flexibility in your job. So I definitely think that millennials are not relying on corporations to keep them afloat.
Steve Apicella, the auto sales industry has to drive forward, not always catch up. The millennial generation isn't approaching, they're here. The same is true with Gen Z, which, by the way, is even larger generation than millennials. I think they were tops in automobile purchases or influencing in one of the articles that I read, who are already old enough to buy cars. A customer's experience is where business is earned, retained, or lost. It's critical to understand experience expectations from their perspective. Again, they have something to teach us. We always must be a student first to be great leaders. Yeah, probably leaders. Only 2 words. Pretty good.
I'm a teacher by heart,
so.
Okay. 2 words and I know the whole word. Could probably finish the sentence.
Steve Apicella says, spot on. Any employee will give you and their job 100% consistently if the bosses will lend an ear to their boots on the ground suggestions to make their work more effective and efficient. The boss might say no and explain their experience of why the suggestion won't work. The boss will gain so much more respect if they give the employees their say. Spot on. That's Michael Larkin said that one. He was responding to Steve. Yeah, man, we're getting some great comments here. Paul Machine, by 2025, millennials and Gen Z will account for 60% of buying power. That bears repeating. By 2025, millennials and Gen Z will account for 60% of the buying power. That's huge. We have to cater to their preferences, not use a 100-year-old process. Are you suggesting that some of our processes in the car business might be reminiscent of the 70s? Paul, is that what I'm hearing? Because I would agree with you 100%. Lou Ramirez, you've got another greasy show going, Paul. Keep brewing great conversations. He's the car guy, Lou Ramirez, just saying. All right, number 13, millennials don't value security or prestige like previous generations.
We definitely value it. When we get it, that's a different story. But I think that ties into a lot of like millennials are staying at home and living with their parents longer because they are trying to, I think that a lot of people see that as laziness or just lack of work ethic, when in reality they're thinking, hey, I can stay with my parents rent free or for lower rent and just contribute in other ways in order to be able to save money to build my future. So I definitely think that we value security and stability just in different ways than previous generations did.
And when one's got $1,000+ a month student loan debt, staying home is not really that bad of an option. It's presented as though, oh, they're staying at home because they're lazy. No, they're staying alone because we crippled them in loan debt. It says here, number 14, millennials are financially illiterate. I don't think so.
I think that kind of ties back to another point that we talked about with just learning different skills, through our formative years. And so I think that there's definitely a lot of parts of finance that I'm not fully literate on, but I think that everyone kind of has their own process for finding the resources and getting the knowledge and education that they need. So I can say there's definitely been many times where I felt like I didn't really know what I was doing when trying to plan for retirement and 401ks and whatever else. And it really took a lot of work on my part to try to find those resources, but they were never taught to me in a school. Even down to things like doing taxes. Every time I do my taxes, I'm just so stressed out. I have no idea what I'm doing. And I use H&R Block and it's still a struggle. So I think that a lot of things that are related to financial literacy, we just weren't given the resources to learn about those things. We've never learned about them in school. And I think that that's something that really needs to change.
But a lot of what you learn on your own just by investigating, right? I mean, with the internet today, just the way the world turns, you're able to find the answers to a lot of the things on your own. Like we talked about, prefer your preference to book things online, right? The great thing about the dealership is they have an online scheduling solution that works pretty decent because it's convenient for you to make your service appointment right online. You get a follow-up confirmation, and you even get a reminder, right? They call you or they email you or both. But you have the flexibility to be able to do that on your own, and that's something you prefer. Just like hotels, just like airlines, trains, all without having to necessarily rely on somebody to answer the phone that may or may not want to answer the phone that day. You ever call a business and talk to somebody that clearly got up on the wrong side of the bed and had no interest in being on the other side of that phone? I mean, I know it's happened to me lots of times. Hey, Meatball. Want to pick Meatball up, introduce him? Everybody loves Oreo. Oreo jumped up. You hear Meatball in the background? That's Erica's cute cat who missed me tremendously.
But I think going back to what you were saying about just being financially literate and something that Lou Ramirez said in the comments, he said if somebody doesn't know, it's because they haven't been taught. We can't hold them responsible for what we don't teach them. And I totally agree with that. And I think that financial literacy is something that every student should have access to, because I think that some of the things that we learn in school are actually things that we could probably YouTube and Google and look up on our own, such as cursive. Maybe there are some people who really want to learn how to write cursive, and that's something that they could just watch a TikTok on and learn in their own time. Whereas things that are really not hobbies or not optional, everyone needs to have financial literacy. That's something that should be non-negotiable, that everyone has a foundation for before they leave high school.
Great comment, Lou. Appreciate that, man. He says, I mean, great.
Autocorrect got the best of him with the greasy.
And Kurt says, happy Sunday, Paul. Kurt, how are you, man? Happy Sunday to you, my friend. So yeah, Lou, that was spot on, man. And Michael Larkin answers, YouTube is my hack. That is absolutely true. I've learned so much on YouTube. As a matter of fact, The trash compactor that was malfunctioning is no longer malfunctioning thanks to YouTube and Amazon. Simple video. Mark Williamson, when you get down to the nitty gritty, massive pun intended, because he knows about the nitty gritty yarn girl. That's great, man. Generations really haven't changed that much. Basically, all still just want respect, to be treated with kindness and have their time valued. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Paulette, did you get that nitty gritty reference there? Because everybody knows about the nitty gritty yarn girl. Steve Apicella, delivering disruptive solutions isn't just an external pursuit. It's an internal challenge. Doing business a certain way because that's the way it has always been done is self-inflicted strategic mistake. Our world is always changing, so too should our tactics evolve if we intend to exceed expectations to earn every customer's business. Spot on. Tony Hola says, that cat is so rude. Didn't even show his face. The cat's got some issues. But I don't know. It's not like my other one. My other one likes to actually walk across the keyboard. But I think one time he knocked me off the show when he did that because he hit the wrong key. So, Meatball, it was rude of you not showing your face. But actually, I did hold his face up. So if you rewind the tape a little bit, you'll see that his face was in there. Granted, held up like it was forced, but nonetheless, he was there. Paulette Meyer says, Mark Williamson, thank you. She's the Nitty Gritty Yarn Girl. Make sure you follow the Nitty Gritty Yarn Girl on Facebook and watch her show on Monday nights on Nitty Gritty Yarn Girl. A show called Twisted Stitches. It airs from 8 p.m. until 8:30 or so. We own the network, so we don't really care if we run over. Every Monday night, it's all about knitting, crocheting, and everybody has a friend or family member that does that. So make sure you tune into that show. Ron Usher says, I was the very first millennial a long time ago. You just retired. That means you can't be a millennial. It means you're a boomer. Well, this was fun having you on here, Erica.
Yes, thanks for having me. Thanks to everyone who tuned in.
And I didn't twist your arm at all, did I?
Thanks everyone for your active engagement.
Hey, you didn't answer that question. Wow. So any other questions for our millennial person here? Well, we still have a couple of minutes left to go on the show. Michael Larkin says, finally a plug for Paulette on this show. Actually, I gave her a plug once before when she was on. Paul Machine says, our local Jack in the Box is paying $15 an hour or up to $30,000 a year for any youth willing to work 39 plus hours. Problem is they can't find the right people to do the work. That is not the issue. The issue, I believe, is the environment and culture leadership has created. Living at home, going to school, and making up to $30K to pay for school is not a bad deal. I don't think I've ever been to a Jack in the Box. Where are they, Paul? Are they down? Are they more down
Is that
south?
the West Coast?
No, he's in South Carolina.
Oh.
So it's a burger place, I think. I'm not sure. I've not been to Jack in the Box.
Is that $30,000 a year to work 39 hours a week? Because if that's the case, I see why $30,000 a year is.
That's not a lot of money.
It's really not.
Yeah, it says South Carolina. Huh? Is that a big chain down there? Because I've heard of it, but I've never been. Great burgers.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of it too. Never seen them.
Like the burger I had today was like killer. Crazy good burger. Any other questions for our millennial? I would like to thank everybody for tuning in. Another fun show. Paulette says, LOL, Jack in the Box is a burger franchise. Oh, I've got to find the Jack in the Box next time. We'll have to look it up. because I'm a big fan of food. And burger happens to be food. Paul Machine says, living at home, 30K is decent. Perhaps.
I don't know. I don't think 30K is decent. I'm going to respectfully have to agree to disagree. 30K to work 40 hours a week is poverty. And even if you're living at home, I think that that's still not really enough to really save, because who's to say that your parents won't ask you to pitch in or pay for some rent?
This is true. Mark Williamson says, great show. Have a great week. Thank you. Steve Cheshin, budgets for hours are low, so tech skills must be high. And Michael Arkin says, great show. Paul Machine, another great show. Thank you, Erica. Thank you all. Be safe this week. Go crush your market. Thanks for tuning in. And we'll see you next week on Sunday Night Live. Oh, Kurt says, caught you guys while out mountain biking. If we face the facts, 30,000 a year for any entry-level position is pretty stinking good. All right. We could agree to disagree.
30K is poverty. It is food stamps. It is ramen noodles. It is not a way to live.
Ramen time. Oh, he says that it's meant to be a starting point, not the goal. All right, we could agree to disagree on that one. And Paulette says living at home or up or supporting yourself, 30K is not decent. Brian Cates, great show, lots of good info. Michael Weldon, solid once again. And a double thumbs up from Paulette ends tonight's show. Thank you again. And we'll see you next week on Sunday Night Live. Bye, y'all.